it's me, Sweetie, and thank you for being here for another video. Today I wanted to talk about two things. One, I am a Lolita, and two, I am chronically ill. Now the first of those things is definitely more exciting and more positive, but today I wanted to talk about how one of those things led to another. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my chronic illness, and it is called functional dyspepsia. Wasn't a common term to me, probably not a common term to you, so I will explain it a little bit. Functional dyspepsia affects the stomach region, but also just the digestive tract in general. It is not an easy illness to diagnose because it's pretty much only diagnosed when everything else has been ruled out. The term functional being in the name of the illness means everything structurally is fine. There's no like abscesses or ulcers or damage to my system. It should work fine, but it doesn't. Sort of the main three things that I experience with having this illness is A, I can't eat very much at one time. I get really full really quickly. Number two, nausea. Just anything. When I've eaten, when I've not eaten, when I'm not doing anything, if I'm overexerting myself, just nauseous all the time. And number three, burping. A lot of burping. There is another symptom that I have, but I feel like whenever I eat, it sits in my stomach for a really long time and my stomach overproduces acid, and then the contents of my stomach don't really drain as quickly as they should, so it all just kind of sits in there and causes a mess. I did not come to discover that I had this illness until I was 27, so only about 2 years ago. So for my entire life, up until the age of 27, I was really just sick all the time, and no one could tell me why. I remember at a very young age, it affected me heavily. I just felt like throwing up all the time. I would barely touch my food. Everyone, like every adult in my life, would always remark that I ate like a bird and just thought it was because I was small and skinny or a kid or something, but it was because I literally couldn't eat without feeling full immediately, and then also like I was gonna vomit. Now, thankfully, my parents did take notice of this and did take me to the doctor, but the doctors all pretty much just said that I was lactose intolerant and I would grow out of it. Huge surprise, I didn't. I did all sorts of testing. I had like a sonogram done on my stomach, blood work, pretty much everything you can think of, short of them shoving a camera down my throat and into my stomach. So for 27 years, I pretty much just dealt with that as a daily part of my life. There is one singular event that led to me finally coming to the conclusion about what kind of illness I had and then getting some medication for it. And that was my husband's birthday party. So for my husband's birthday, we went out to a local bar arcade, super fun. I had a couple drinks. There was no hard liquor or alcohol in it. It was just an alcoholic apple cider and just two like regular sized little cups of it. Nothing out of the ordinary. And that night when I came home and my husband fell asleep, I was the sickest I have ever been in my whole life. Over the course of the next 8 hours, I did not get a single second of relief from the pain that I was in. Extremely intense stomach pain, cramping like in my lower stomach, the most powerful nausea I have ever felt. And mind you, I had 27 years of experience with that. I know when I say I had essentially a stomach ache and nausea, it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when you are experiencing an intense, prolonged, multi-hour episode of that with no relief, it's like being tortured. And so after about 8 hours of suffering through the night, not getting a single second of rest or relief or sleep, I woke up my husband and I had him take me to the local ER. When I got there, I pretty much just begged them to give me something to get rid of the nausea and calm my stomach down. They hooked me up to an IV and they gave me like some nice stomach numbing medication and did, you know, your classical tests that I would get, like MRI on my stomach, them asking me all sorts of questions. Of course, there was nothing like wrong with my stomach. With the MRI, they did say that like my intestines were inflamed, and I'm like, yeah, no kidding, you're telling me. But They did prescribe me a medication to take over the next week to help reduce the inflammation and not irritate it, and that medication changed my life. I took it once every day for the next week, and I did not experience a single moment of nausea or upset stomach. I could eat an entire meal. It was insane. I could not stop talking about it. I felt like I was annoying everyone around me with how miraculous it was that I could eat a whole meal in one sitting, and then I could get up, walk around, do whatever I want, and not be stuck in the bathroom for the next who knows how long. For the first time in 27 years, I could eat what I wanted and I didn't have to worry about being sick for the rest of the day. Now, of course, this got me thinking, why now? Why this medication? Why is this helping me? And so I did a little bit of research. Through that research, and due to the kind of medication they prescribed to me, which is a proton pump inhibitor, or a PPI, I came to discover that all of my symptoms rounded up, plus a few missing symptoms that I really hadn't considered or added in, brought me to the diagnosis of functional dyspepsia. It is the only illness that I have ever found after 27 years of self-research, since the doctors couldn't help me, that matched exactly every symptom, every sensation, every feeling I had ever felt from this illness. It is the only one that fit perfectly. And that brings us to now. I take my proton pump inhibitor medication every single day, and while I'll probably have like maybe one bad day a month where I'm just like ill and I have to stay at home and I can't really do much, I will take that over every single day of my life. I do have to be careful. There are combinations of things that I cannot eat or ingest together, or I will be sick no matter what kind of stomach medication I take. Those things are caffeine, alcohol, sugar, and greasy food. So I can have like one of those things in a day, but I can't have two together or I will have a bad time. So of course my diet is a little bit limited now, but I can live with that compared to how I was living before. So I've given you the spiel about my lovely chronic illness. How in the world does it tie together with being a Lolita? So throughout my childhood and the rest of my life after that, I really couldn't eat a lot at one time, which led to me not really getting the full scope of nutrients or calories that I needed as a child, which I think plainly resulted in me being as small as I am today. Now, obviously, I won't put that entirely on the illness. My mother is on the short side. I did activities such as gymnastics and dance when I was younger, which can also stunt your growth. When puberty came, everyone else had their growth spurts, and I really haven't changed my height or body shape since I was probably 13 years old. That's just my opinion. I am not a doctor. I am not a nutritionist. It's just a hunch based on how I've experienced life. And as I've spoken about before many times, the way I look really affected the kind of clothes I was able to wear. I don't have a very womanly shape. I'm not curvy. And so it's really hard for me to fit into your standard American clothes or your standard American, like, sexy woman style, which led me to falling in love with Lolita. Finding this fashion that so well fit this sick little body of mine gave me such a confidence, and it made me feel beautiful in a body that a lot of the time I felt like a prisoner in. So much of my time was spent in the bathroom or curled up in a ball on the sofa, being so out of my mind with nausea that like I couldn't think, I couldn't speak. I was just praying for any kind of relief, and to be able to dress my body in something that made me feel so beautiful and made me fall back in love with and appreciate this body of mine. It's been so special. It allowed me to view myself and this body that I have in a completely different way than how I had been used to my entire life before. And in another kind of interesting way, you know, the Lolita fashion is very like doll-like, dolly. It gives you imagery and nostalgia for, you know, the dolls you would have on a shelf in your room. And having this illness just like sidelined me from so much. I felt like a doll sitting on a shelf. So it's almost in a sort of abstract thinking kind of way, a personified version of how I felt in my body because of this illness, and it all comes together in a very interesting and therapeutic way that really offered me some kind of closure. And it also makes me feel really pretty. So does my chronic illness suck? Yes, absolutely. But did it also lead me to some things in my life that I really love? Absolutely. Besides giving me that connection to Lolita fashion, my illness has also given me a few other things that are positive. I have to be very mindful of my nutrition. I can't drink a bunch of alcohol or intake a bunch of caffeine or eat a bunch of greasy food. I do eat a lot of candy though. But other than that, I do have to be very mindful of what I am putting inside my body, so I think that has been a really positive outcome. I've also switched over to a almost completely vegetarian plant-based diet, but I really don't mess with red meat. Everything I cook at home is vegetarian. I do enjoy fish, that doesn't cause me any problems, but through that I have found that cutting out red meat and just as much meat as possible in general, I have found a diet that helps and works with my illness. And if I ever have gone back to eating red meat, it absolutely destroys my stomach. So it's also led me to a healthier, more sustainable diet that I feel good about and doesn't upset my body. And finally, it's led me to really appreciate the time when I'm not sick. All the good days I have now because I'm not sick all the time anymore mean the world to me, and I don't take a single second of that time for granted. I remember all the times that I would be just curled up on the sofa, writhing in pain, and just wishing I could be doing anything else, and now I can. I do still have days where I am sick and I can't do much but lay around in bed, but when it's over, I have such an appreciation and a relief that I don't feel like crap anymore. So I feel like it's really taught me to use my time wisely, don't take it for granted, and just enjoy every second that my body is able to be there for me. Now, I've been on social media for quite a long time in somewhat of a public eye as well, and I think, to my memory, this is the first time I've ever publicly talked about my chronic illness. So it feels a little weird. It feels like I'm sharing something that's like very much just for me and my very close friends and family, but it feels nice to share it too. It feels nice to share something that I feel somewhat vulnerable about and just have it be out there so it's not so like hidden, it's not something that I'm hiding or suffering through alone anymore. Well, that's me and my illness. Thank you for joining me for this video and just letting me throw my thoughts at you. I really do appreciate that I get to share my thoughts and my emotions and my past with you guys and know that you guys are out there listening. Well, I am going to wrap it up here, guys. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of my day. I hope you enjoy yours as well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!